Good morning, good people. This is your Poolproof Wisdom Moment. Hey, listen, I was having dinner with a friend the other evening, and we were having a long conversation because the call that led to the dinner was really based upon an invitation that he extended. My friend is a good human being. I'm not going to claim anything different, but he's been going through it a lot lately for a lot of different reasons. Sometimes, when you are a good friend, all that you are supposed to do is to show up and listen. Let the individual get whatever it is that they're dealing with out of their system. The venting is important. It's helpful because once you empty that emotional reservoir, you find that you have room to breathe. And that's what was necessary in this case. So, of course, I showed up and I listened. As I was listening to the conversation, something that began to occur to me was a lot of questions about what I heard, because what my friend was expressing were a lot of deep seated emotions about the things that were going on, but not really any insights as to what he was supposed to do about them, or even how some of those things that he was feeling so strongly about even came to fruition. Now, I happen to believe that while, yeah, you're supposed to show up sometimes and just listen, I don't believe that as a good friend that you avoid an opportunity where you tell someone something that they may need to hear, even when they don't want to hear it. And this was one of those cases. So when he finished, I said, do you mind if I share some insights based on what you just told me? He said, no, man, go ahead. Say what you got to say. So I asked him, have you ever thought about what role you played in all of these things? So there was a little bit of defensiveness, which you expect. No, no, yeah, I didn't do. I said, but wait a minute, hear me out. Have you ever thought that if you were a person who was more in alignment with your own sense of self, that these things that other people are doing that you see as being done to you wouldn't have the same impact? So he thought for a moment and he said, I hadn't thought about it that way. I said, that's exactly why I'm here. Sometimes when we're in the midst of what we're dealing with, we don't think as clearly as we should. So we talked about it a little bit more. And I asked a series of questions about how he felt about his own capabilities, how he felt about his contributions to the relationships he was in, work that he was complaining about, even the idea of whether or not he was on the trajectory of life that he wanted to be upon. And constantly, the answers came back that what he was dealing with was based on expectations he felt others had of him versus what he had that were his expectations for himself. Now, this is a successful guy. He's got all the trappings of success. He's got the nice home, he's got great cars, plural. He's got money in the bank. He's got a future that seems bright. But in the midst of all of this, he is unhappy. He doesn't know joy. And he spends more time thinking about all the things in his life that lack than all of the things that he does have. But he is very happy with those things he has. Believe me, he will show up in a second to let you know that he is living that life where he's got all of the trappings of what success seems to be. So as we continue to talk about these things, those concerns, those issues that were important to him, all the things that made him conclude that he had rights to be angry, upset, frustrated, pissed off, whatever the term is you want to apply, he was feeling all of that. And I told him something that I said, I hope that when you hear this, that you will accept it for what it is intended to do and not interpret it based on it being perceived as an attack. So that thing I told him is that you are a great human being. You give to people, you care about people, but you also are more wrapped up in what is perceived in terms of who you are than letting people know who you are. And that includes yourself. Your drive for success is what gets you up in the morning. Your drive to have the trappings of what that looks like, it keeps you going. You are very much someone who is willing to share everything you have to the extent that it does not extend beyond the physical manifestation of what you believe other people expect from you. Giving people things, sharing things, that's wonderful. It's great. But at the end of the day, you don't feel like you have any meaning or that you matter to anyone. You see yourself as a bank, as someone who is there to bail people out of trouble, who is always available to step up and provide something that is useful in terms of tangible things, whether it be cash, whether it be property, whatever. You are good on all of those fronts. But you never give yourself grace. You never see yourself as someone who needs other people to see that you matter. And therefore, you have let yourself get to the point where you believe that your only role in this world is to be the person who's successful and is there to help other people whenever they need to be helped, even when they don't ask for it. You like taking on that role. And that's because, my friend, you haven't learned to essentially love yourself. You haven't learned how to value who you are and what you contribute to the world beyond those material things. And what I want you to know, and I want you to consider this, no matter what the circumstance, no matter what the time of day, no matter what you think you're supposed to believe, I want you to consider this essential truth. You will never be a person who is happy in your life with who you are as long as the only things that you value are what you have. Listen to that very carefully. Until you are happy with who you are, you will never be happy with what you have. Start redefining your life in terms of who you are and what makes you really happy, what makes you see the value in yourself. And watch how the switch just flips, and automatically it may actually seem. You are in a position where you're starting to find joy in small things. It won't be something that is based upon how much money you've got in the bank. It won't be something based upon the name of the designer whose name is listed on the clothing or the footwear that you happen to be wearing. It won't be whether other people see you walk in a room and say, well, there's a successful human being. It will be based upon you being happy in and of yourself with simply saying, I like how I am, I like who I am, I like what I do, and I like the opportunities that I have available to me. And I am grateful for them all. Switch the dynamic from the externalization of what you consider to be those things that make you happy to the internalization of what really makes you happy, and you will absolutely change your life. He received the message, and he's been exercising his approach to his living in that way ever since. And I've got to tell you, I talked to him just the other evening, and he's a different fella, not completely, but when he stops in the midst of a sentence, I can sense he's recorrecting himself, or I should say correcting himself, because he does it and then does it again, so maybe it's a little of both. But he's in a position where he sees the things that are important to him. And he is still a successful guy from all the external trappings, but every day he's becoming more of a successful person in terms of what's going on inside here and in terms of what's going on inside here. And that, my good people, is where you want to be. So remember, seek to be happy with who you are and not just what you have. And it will be very interesting how much happier you become overall with everything that represents your life. And that is your Poolproof Wisdom moment for today. Find my podcast, Poolproof Wisdom, available on podcast platforms everywhere. You can also find my books, I Am My Own Cause, on online booksellers, and audio form on Audible for the third book, and of course on PooleProofBooks.com. It's the middle of the week. There's still much to be achieved, there's still much to learn, and there's still much to hope for. My wish for you, good people, is that you do all that and more, just as you see fit to do. Have a great day.